Hello, friends. Welcome to my introduction to statistical software and the basics of data. In this video, we will learn some basic vocabulary regarding data and managing data. A data set looks something like this. You can see it has columns and rows just like a typical Excel spreadsheet. The only difference here is usually the information on this sheet is taken from a survey. And as you can see, there are rows that are numbered. When we manage a data set that's taken from a survey, we call the rows the respondents. Those are the people who gave us the answers to the survey. So, for example, respondent number 6 is male, 41 years old, from Australia, and usually visits the East Meadow Pool approximately 10 times a year, and so on. Respondent number 12 is a male, 61 years old, from Asia, and usually visits the pool 18 times per month. And that's how you would organize the data from a survey. If the data is not from a survey, if the data is from something like a physical phenomenon that you would measure, we would call each row an observation. And you could say that I have observed that respondent number 3 is female. Respondent number 3 spends $0 on snacks at the pool, and so on. When it comes to the column headings are the answers to the questions that the respondents gave. And we call the columns with the column headings variables. That's because the respondent's answer could vary from person to person. Now you may notice that I have designated some of the columns to have a blue color for the title or the column heading, and some columns have purple. The columns that I put in blue are what we call continuous variables. You will notice that in the field of data for continuous variables, there is a numeric value because that's the type of variable that it is. For example, age is a number, visits per month is a number, and the money amount spent on snacks is a number. And because you can quantify this variable, because you can do math operations with this variable just as is from the information that the respondent gave you, we call these variables continuous variables. You may also notice that the other variables are designated with a purple color, and those variables are not answers to questions that the respondent would give as a number. And we call any other variable that you cannot automatically quantify as a number, we call those variables discrete variables. There are really three different kinds of discrete variables. Categorical, like continent. You would answer the question what continent you're from, and then we would place that in a different category. And if there were 7 continents, there would be 7 different categories for that variable. Ordinal, for example, the answer to the question, what was your enjoyment level, or how much enjoyment did you derive from going to the East Meadow Pool on a scale from 1 to 5? And of course, there are binary discrete variables, also called dichotomous, which could have only 2 possible answers, like gender. But another example of a binary discrete variable might be an answer to the question such as yes or no, or night or day. So if there's only 2 possible values that variable could have, and it is a discrete variable, we say that's a binary or dichotomous variable. When we use the word value, we mean the numeric value entered into the data field. In the case of a continuous variable, the value is already there as the answer to the respondent's question or the amount you observed for that particular observation or respondent. For example, respondent number 4 is female and her age is 31 and she spends $12 when she comes to the pool. Respondent number 12 is male and he visits the pool 18 times a month and he spends usually about $4 on snacks. So a continuous variable is all ready for you to be able to do math calculations and use statistical functions to be able to run an analysis. However, when it comes to discrete variables, you will notice that the values in the cells are non-numeric. This means we are limited in how many statistical analyses we can run with these variables because they are words and not numbers. So what do? Well, we can give discrete variables both a value and a label. And if there's a numeric value associated with that particular variable, we can run many more statistical analysis and do many more things with that variable. For example, the variable gender can be only male or female. If we designate the answer or the response of male to the number 1 and we assign male the value of 1 and we assign the response female the value of 2, we will be able to run more statistical analyses. You might see the label male in the resulting table or the resulting graph, but the computer will see it as the value of number 1. You might see the word female in the table or the graph that we run when we make a statistical analysis on this variable gender, but the computer will see it as the number 2. It's the same thing for the variable continent. Now, there are 7 continents on the Earth, but if you look at the example data set, you'll see I only really used 5 out of the 7 continents just to keep the numbers smaller, for example. So if you run an analysis like a table or a graph, you will see the word Asia, but the computer will think of it as the number 1 and do the mathematics accordingly. You might see the word Australia, but the computer will think of it as the number 2 and do the math and so on. So if you use numeric values and assign labels, your data table would look like this. The gender column would only have the number 1 or the number 2. The continent column would only have the numbers 1 through 5, depending on which continent. And then, of course, once you assign the labels to those values, the table will again look like this. And again, you will see the labels, but the computer will use the numbers that they have been assigned.